waiting to finalize the adoption of their youngest daughters when a social worker called them about another young girl who needed help.
There was a child staying at the YFS office over a weekend, and they put out a call to foster families if they could let this child visit their home a couple times over the weekend, just to shower and just have a break from getting out of the office.
The couple welcomed the teen into their home.
It's just the saddest story. She was a 13-year-old girl, just as sweet and mannerly as she could be, but just had nowhere to go for that weekend. She was eating out of a vending machine and sleeping in the YFS office.
I mean, it was just nice to be able to do something and help, and but yeah, it's just a huge need in our city for sure.
How dire is the situation as far as having enough places for foster kids?
It's really dire. There are not enough placements for kids.
Trish Hobson is the executive director for the Relatives, emergency housing in Mecklenburg County for kids and young adults ages 7 to 24. They partner with DSS on a regular basis. What we've heard is they're literally running out of places and kids are sleeping on the floor at DSS?
Yes. We have had meetings with DSS leadership. They're very concerned because there are kids staying actually in their offices because they don't have placement for them. And I think there are kids staying in hotels as well. What they told us was that there were kids really sleeping in the conference room and that they were having to partner with other organizations for things like showers and meals and things like that. You know, and these kids are going to school during the day, so they've got to do homework.
She says the Relatives helps whenever possible, but their beds have been fuller than ever before since COVID.
What we've seen is that the kids end up staying with us for a lot longer because it's much harder to find a family for them to go to because there's just less foster care families out there. You know, at the beginning of COVID, a lot of people just didn't want to have, kids in their home that they didn't know what they'd been exposed to. And so a lot of foster parents dropped off during that time. And it's been a really big challenge to build that back up.
What's happening right now isn't necessarily unique to Charlotte. It's in every city in our country. There is a placement crisis.
Nicole Taylor is the executive director for Congregation for Kids, a nonprofit working to recruit and support foster families.
These kids are the responsibility of our community. And oftentimes we think there's somebody else that's kind of handling this. There is not anyone else.
We tried to get answers from the county about why kids are sleeping at youth and family services buildings, but a spokesperson would only answer basic questions, telling us there are about 500 kids in foster care in Mecklenburg County on any given day and about 600 licensed foster parents. When we pressed them, asking specifically about kids sleeping at their offices, they told us, quote, DSS has nothing further to add and appreciates your efforts to assist in recruiting foster care placements.
Right, none of this is a great situation for a child, right? I mean, anytime you're being removed from your home, it was probably bad to begin with. And then to be sort of in flux like that, it's really important that kids feel safe as quickly as they can. I'm sure they're safe, but I'm sure it also feels a little just off balance.
If you're interested in learning more about foster parenting, there's a class later this month. We've got all the information you need on that and many more resources. You can find it all on our website, WCNC.com. Back to you.
One app to book a flight and get a ride to and from the airport? Well, Uber's testing it out as we speak. I'm Carolyn Bruck, and this is your Where's the Money Minute. Ride-hailing app Uber has become a go-to from getting from point A to point B, and now it is upping its game. You can now book flights on the app, but only in the United Kingdom at the moment. And it's not just flights. The Financial Times reports that customers can book a complete journey across multiple forms of transportation, with Uber already offering bookings for train and bus tickets there. The idea is when a customer books a flight on the app, they'll actually have the benefit of getting discounted rides to the airport. The Financial Times reports the move is part of the San Francisco-based company's push to become a travel super app. And while the UK is serving as a test ground for these efforts, if all goes well, we just might be able to book flights on the Uber app right here in the United States in the future. With your Where's the Money Minute, I'm Carolyn Bruck.
And this is why WCNC Charlotte's Kia Murray is diving in, showing us how several stakeholders are seeking solutions.
It's the one thing these allies need more of.
There are not enough resources.
The resources.
Nonprofit leaders, doctors, and law enforcement gathered in this room to paint a picture of what addressing mental health looks like in South Carolina. You're looking at the Hear Me, See Me, Accept Me project that's in the works. The soon-to-be mobile mural is meant to raise awareness. And while visibility is where problem-solving starts, it's far from where it ends, especially when tackling what Katie Durkee calls one of her group's most impactful issues, crisis intervention.
When I have a person who calls me and they're in crisis, they may have called 988, which is the crisis text line, and they may have been stabilized over that period of time. They didn't need to go to the emergency room, but they've advised them to get a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or they need to go and do a step-down program. And when I talk about step-down programs, I'm talking about intensive programs, but the child goes home at night.
And that's the goal, to keep kids with their parents. But the path to that goal is littered with obstacles. On the step-down program, other organizations define it as some kind of intermediate or mid-level care for people struggling with mental health. It's for those who may not need care at a hospital but have trouble functioning in society. York County Sheriff Kevin Tolson says the lack of resources can lead to scenes like this one.
There was a 9-year-old at our local hospital in mental crisis.
When this happens, kids in crisis being handed over to law enforcement for transport, Tolson says he's left with few options. But in this situation, he was able to direct his officer to an alternative.
Put himself in civilian clothes. He went and got an unmarked police car, so it didn't have the blue lights on top. It didn't look like a police car. And we were able to let the mom ride with this child who was in mental crisis to the hospital, and then we brought the mom back.
Still, even after a crisis situation or hospital visit, there's work to be done.
And the families don't learn how they can support their children at home.
It's why pediatrician Dr. Martha Edwards has this for parents navigating mental health with their own children at home.
There are sort of 3 parts that I like to focus on with families. So prevention, screening, if there's a problem, and then intervention. What do you do if you do find a problem?
The methods Edwards talks about there can include checking out your own family medical history for mental illness diagnosis, or even coming up with daily routines for you and your child. But that doesn't take away from the bigger solutions to problems like crisis resources. These leaders talked about the need for more beds in psychiatric care, crisis intervention resource centers, and the funding to pursue them. I'm Kia Murray, WCNC Charlotte.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here. Let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Not great news for Saturday. Looks like a washout, but Sunday does look a little bit better, and Monday looks even better than that. You can see what's going to happen. Saturday washout, light and scattered showers Sunday, then becoming more breaks of sunshine, isolated rain as we go into Monday. What's going on right now? Well, let's look at this system. The leading edge, not making much progress northwest. We kind of expected this. Overnight, don't expect any rain. Probably going to wake up to dry conditions Saturday, but once we get to the middle of the day, this moisture starts moving in from the coast, and that's where this low pressure is developing. At the same time, we've got high pressure to the north, kind of setting up the perfect setup for, or in this case, the bad setup for rain and cold temperatures. Temperatures in the 60s now. Whatever the high is tonight at midnight, that will be the high temperature for Saturday, because the dew points are dry and getting drier. And why is that important? Well, as rain falls into this dry air, it'll evaporate the rain. That will cool the air down, causing chilly conditions. So overnight, expect some sprinkles to develop, but mainly cloudy. Temperatures in the mid-50s, northeast breeze. Here's the setup. Low pressure tracks inland, so rain mid to late morning, probably more like lunchtime. It won't rain the entire time tomorrow, but there'll be waves of it. Sunday, Monday, things get a little bit more interesting, where we might see some breaks in the rainfall. So let me show you the closer in futurecast, because I'm going to put the temperatures on here as well. You see the low 60s tonight. We'll go into tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Here comes that leading edge, likely dry for most of the Piedmont into the mountains. By the middle of the day, rain starts to move into the Piedmont. This is when the temperatures fall because of that evaporative cooling. And you see by the middle of the day, raining pretty steadily. Now, what you got to be careful of in these scenarios is I don't see green here. Is it going to be done raining? Probably not, because what you have to understand is we've got northeast winds at the surface, but warm, humid air coming in from the south. So while there might not be heavy rain like you see in the greens and yellows, there's probably still plenty of mist and drizzle falling where there's not green. The models have a tough time resolving that. So I don't even think it will be completely done raining. It'll just be mist or drizzle. And you can see that persist pretty much all night. Rain develops over us into Sunday morning. Now, Sunday, this is where things get interesting. I've shown the futurecast and people go, oh, it looks great Sunday. I'm not so sure. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're like, oh, yeah, sure, there's not heavy rain overs, Brad, but that's a lot of light rain, drizzle, and mist. You see all the little patches of green? That means it's probably misting and drizzly. And for the NASCAR officials, getting a race in with mist or drizzle, the track is still wet. So this is where I have issues. Like, we're going to have trouble drying this track late Sunday. Even though it may not be pouring like it is on Saturday, it's going to be tough to dry the track. We're hoping that the rain lets up enough and just becomes low clouds, maybe some fog. But you go into Sunday night, there's still light rain and drizzle over us. And the real breaks don't start to develop until Monday. We wake up to fog and drizzle, and then during the day, Monday, middle of the day, the sun might actually break out in some locations. And we're just looking at isolated showers, maybe even a thunderstorm if the sun is out long enough. So Monday does look pretty decent right now. Let's break down the rain chances for Saturday first. This is the hour by hour, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'll move my head out of the way here real quickly. You can see it ramps up from 20-30% in the morning to 90% by the afternoon. Let's look at Sunday's rain chances. It ramps down as the day goes on. So 70-80% early, ramping down to 40% by evening. So that's a good sign. If we look at the flash flood guidance as we go into the weekend, this is tonight's flash flood guidance. Tomorrow, most of our region in the yellow, that means a medium risk for flash flooding, a high risk along the coast. So if you're on the beaches and the coast this weekend, Saturday's the worst day as well. It does get better as the weekend goes on, because even though Sunday, you can see there is a low chance for the Piedmont, still got a medium chance for the mountains. So this is why Sunday, it doesn't just shut off, folks, on Sunday. It just looks lighter. I think it's kind of a deceiving setup. Here's a look at the amounts. So we'll break down the amounts here. You see how the totals don't really ramp up until tomorrow evening. So it starts light, picks up, and then as we go into Sunday morning, there's a couple areas, maybe 1 to 2, 3 inches in the mountains, foothills. We go through Sunday afternoon, and you can see the amounts are light. So that's why you kind of think it's mist or drizzle more so than real heavy rain. But you see the totals in the mountains where we could see 2 to 3 inches of rain. So we'll break down the weekend forecast again. Here's the whole holiday forecast day by day. So let me play that first. And you'll see that Saturday's the worst day, 90% chance of rain. Sunday, 80%, kind of more scattered. Monday, isolated, and even some breaks in the sun or in the cloud cover that we could see the sunshine break out at times. So here's the hour by hour look for the weekend, just to give you kind of a recap. I think this will help you kind of understand better. And I will move my head out of the way so you can see it. But you get the idea. Saturday, 50s, that would be a record if we don't get to 60 degrees or higher. But I think that's probably going to happen at midnight. But that's cold. Let's just face it. And the winds are going to be howling. In all of this, I haven't even talked about the wind speeds tomorrow. Just to show you real quickly the wind speeds. Look at these winds. Sustained, 10, 15, 20 miles per hour. A gust could be as high as 40 miles per hour tomorrow. So on top of all this, it's just a windy, wet, miserable Saturday into Sunday with slow improvement. In fact, the best weather is going to happen at the end of the weekend when the holiday weekend ends. So I wish I had better news for you. Remember, I'm just the messenger. I do not make the weather. I just forecast it, and this is the honest truth of what's going to happen this weekend. So I will post an update tomorrow morning as well. By then, we'll have a pretty good idea on the leading edge of it moving in. And keep your fingers crossed. I'm still optimistic that late Sunday we could get some racing in, because remember, we only have to get halfway. So that's still a possibility. So you're not going to see any significant changes until probably during the race or at race time on Sunday, and they'll have to make the call then. So be patient. It's going to be probably a wait and see kind of attitude for the weekend. Have a great weekend. Remember, it's Memorial Day. The reason for the weekend is to remember everybody who sacrificed for our country. So just keep that in mind when you're struggling with some of your plans this weekend here on Memorial Day weekend.
At WCNC Charlotte, we really want to make a difference. We have tools like Verify and Where's the Money to really listen to viewers and see what they're struggling with, whether that's trying to get money that you deserve or answering a question that's confusing you. We're not the experts, we're interviewing the experts. And that's why we want to bring it to you so you can see the facts, how we check them, and how we get the answer.
Good Friday morning. Wake up, Charlotte, to Larry Sprinkle and Chris Mulcahy. And when it's just two of us, what does that normally mean?
Weather.
Yes, and it's on everyone's mind. And, you know, if there's some way that we have the ability to change the weather, this is the one weekend I think we should do it, could do it, but we can't do it.
It's the worst possible setup because how many times that you have Memorial Day weekend and it's almost too hot? This is the exact opposite of that.
Totally. I mean, if you like really cool temperatures, check it out. Here's what it shapes up for this 2023 Memorial Day weekend.
Sorry, it's laughable.
Now, the thing is laughable about this, if you were to say, yeah, the low tonight's going to be 59, that's really not out of the question.
No, absolutely.
But that's the high tomorrow. We may not get to 60 degrees. Rain and more rain. Sunday, at least we're in the mid-60s. And getting close to average on Monday, which is Memorial Day.
Okay, before we get to the rain chances, let's bring up the stats. So you have record highs, you have record lows, but then there's also sometimes record low highs. I know that, that makes it super complicated. But the best way to put this is for May 27th, this is trending to be the coldest afternoon ever for that day in climatology. And if you notice, the 3 other days that were in the lower to the mid-60s, rain was responsible. So this is all rain, that rain-cooled air sticks in place, no sunshine, gets stuck against the mountains, and then you have a low-pressure system that pretty much moves in, it churns, doesn't go anywhere. That's why this is not a great-looking Memorial Day weekend. But, Larry, things are kind of improving, at least later on.
What gets me about this is that 2 of those days are so far back. One's the 1890s, the other's early 1900s, and even 1963 is way back. So you got to go back in history to get a day where it's that cold on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, this is it's been over a half a century since this has happened. It's nuts.
Well, let's show you what's going to happen this weekend. Yes, we do have the rain in the forecast, and we'll show you that today, just cloudy skies. Not looking at any rain today, mostly cloudy. Yep, there it is, churning off Carolina coastline area of low pressure. There's a lot of rain really along the Gulf Stream, but we'd start to get some light rain moving into places like Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, around, say, Oak Island and North Myrtle Beach, but that eventually makes it inland. And this Futurecast, here we go. This is not a fun thing to see as we get farther into Saturday. Look at that. Heavy pockets of rain down towards areas just south of Charlotte, in that area along I-95. And check this out. By tomorrow afternoon, here comes the rain. Heavy, heavy rainfall. If you live in the mountains, tomorrow for the most part should be okay till late afternoon. But in earnest, the heavy rain starts tracking as we get to late tomorrow afternoon. 5 o'clock, heavy, heavy rainfall. Look at that. The areas of red down there just south of Charlotte. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, and you had mentioned this for anyone camping out for the big race on Sunday. So
this is a situation. Please pay attention. We've had some situations a number of years ago at the Speedway where we had abundant rain. It could cause some issues. So they'll keep informed. But be weather aware if you're going to be camping out at the Speedway, because Saturday just turns out to be heavy rain. And it does now. This is the newer model indicating even early Sunday morning heavy rain. This is after midnight before anyone is awake. But you could be awakened by the heavy rain. Look at that band of showers. That's 4 a.m. Sunday morning. Anywhere from the Speedway all the way to the upstate South.
Yeah, it's a perfect flooding setup because you get the light rain followed by the moderate rain, and it lasts for hours. And then you have the heavy rain on top of that. So I think you're going to have a lot of flooding issues that are associated with this. But pretty much once it starts raining on Saturday, and you might be able to be dry for most of the morning into the first part of the afternoon, but then once it starts, it's really not going to stop.
And good news about Sunday, by the evening, things improving. Now, these are the estimated rainfall totals between really Saturday and early Monday morning. There may be some spots over there around Richmond County, Rockingham, that area.
Wow.
Wadesboro, over 3 inches of rain possible. The bulk of that's going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised over 1.5 inches here in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, and this is all associated with the right side of this low pressure system. So that's where it pretty much has the straw in the Atlantic. So that's where most of the moisture is. So kind of think of a tropical system. The National Hurricane Center was putting this as a 10% chance for development. It means it has a lot of moisture. So that's why Larry was showing you those yellows, oranges, and reds with the flooding potential. That easily could dump a quick inch of rain over a couple of hours. So
and then to get the mountains, they're going to get the bulk. This is towards the end of they could get over 2 inches of rainfall there in the mountains. So just be weather aware that if you want to say the worst day of the weekend, it's Saturday. Hate to be negative, but that's the reality of it. And then most of the shower activity on Sunday would be early in the morning, and then probably to the middle part of the day. And that Monday, not a washout. We could probably back that off a little bit as far as the percentages, but still a few leftover showers on Monday.
Okay, let's talk about the big blaring question, Larry.
Yes.
Everyone wants to know for race time. As you mentioned, rain is looking a little less and less, but do we really think that we're going to get the rain in, or it's still
the race in? You mean?
Yeah, the race in. Yeah, we're going to get the rain in. Yeah, get the race in.
Because that's an evening event. And, I think even if there's a delay early on, they'll get the race in because, they have lights, and they'll take that into early Monday morning rather than postpone it. So today's okay, and then there you go. That's tomorrow. I look at that. I really do look at that, and you say, this has to be low temperatures. That's high temperatures.
And it's also breezy, too.
Yes, that's the other thing is we're going to see winds gusting up to maybe 30 miles an hour. That's another problem with these. The saturated soil and those gusty winds, we could see some trees going down.
Yeah.
Again, we've seen it every time we have one of these big storm systems.
Power outages, because I don't think that this is really getting the hype because it's not a big severe weather event, but it's a long enough event with the winds and the rain that there are going to be issues. So we're not deeming it as a weather-aware day, but it's still a day to be weather-aware, as Larry mentioned.
If there's a caveat about this, if we were looking at temperatures, say, in the low to mid-80s with a little bit of sun, we could certainly see some really strong severe storms. This is going to be heavy rainfall, so that's the good news about this. We can be thankful it's not going to be a storm system with big thunderstorms and tornadoes and things like that. But looking ahead to next week, by next Thursday, mid-80s. As we get into the end of the month and the early part of June.
So this weekend is the unofficial start for summer, but it just takes a while to rev up that engine. So summer will be here before you know it. But this, hands down, will be one of the coldest Memorial Day weekends that you will ever witness or have ever witnessed here in Charlotte. So stay safe, everybody.
Stay inside.
Stay inside, yeah. As for the race, we mentioned that the rain is becoming less and less. There's still going to be some spotty rain showers, but luckily, if you had the setup on Saturday and Sunday, we would say absolutely the race is going to be postponed.
The race tonight should be okay. Truck race.
Yes.
They're starting the race tomorrow at noon, so that should be okay, but, with the caveat that some of that rain may start to affect that race, but Sunday evening should be all right.
Yeah, and Memorial Day itself, if you want to do anything outside, there's going to be more dry spots than wet ones. So things are looking better as you continue through the holiday weekend.
All right, that's it. I hope you have a great holiday weekend, and somebody will be back here on Monday. I may take the day off, I'm not sure.
Do you know what? I'll be here to hold down the fort.
Okay,
but the weather will be getting a little bit better by then, and warmer.
See you.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense? Here in North Carolina, tens of thousands of active duty service members are expected to leave the military over the next few years. And they may be the key to our ongoing labor shortage.
How can veterans help boost the labor force? Let's connect the dots. North Carolina has one of the largest concentrations of military members in the nation. And 75,000 active duty personnel at bases in our state are projected to leave the military in the next few years. Just less than half are expected to stay in North Carolina, either working full-time or enrolling in college. And a study found 42% of post-9/11 veterans were overqualified for their first post-military job. That's based on their experience and their training. Now, a state task force working to make sure North Carolina businesses are advertising in the right way. Task force members saying even though some vets might not have a degree, they could still be qualified for a job. And that is connecting the dots.
Dozens of passionate parents flooded tonight's CMS board meeting as the district considers a plan to rezone thousands of students in South Mecklenburg County.
Yeah, the board tonight electing to take the issue up next month instead of voting tonight. So the meeting wrapping up just minutes ago. A new middle and high school being built in the area looks to address overcrowding at several other current schools in this part of the county. But to accommodate the new schools, many students must be rezoned. Tonight's meeting drawing a huge crowd, parents spending hours speaking out.
And WCNC Charlotte's Shamari Morrison joins us to explain how it all went down. Shay, sounds like a really big turnout here.
Yeah, it was. There were actually 105 people who were actually signed up to be speaking. And I want to give a little clarification that I gave you all earlier. Actually, they weren't here to vote at all today. They were just here for that first public comment time where they're getting to hear from parents who are concerned about these things. They have always and will actually be voting in June on this. But a lot of those parents that were here today, they were saying that they want this vote to be delayed.
The board is not following its 4 guiding principles.
It was one of CMS's longest meetings.
The latest draft doesn't make sense in numerous ways.
And one of its most contentious.
November is coming. We won't forget how poorly you're treating our kids, our family, and ourselves.
Hundreds of parents and students packed the chambers of the school board meeting to speak for and against proposed changes that would impact thousands of students in South Mecklenburg.
Would you want your children to be separated from their best friend? Please don't take away the community and the friends we've made.
Kate Stokes is Ashley Stokes' daughter, who pled her case to board members about her proposed new high school.
Until a week ago, Kate and all of her friends were going from right over here at Alexander Graham Middle School to 1,000 feet away at Myers Park High School.
The CMS superintendent's recommendation to the school board tonight will move her to South Meck instead. Like thousands of others, some represented in tonight's board meeting, proposed boundary and feeder pattern changes are impacting students from elementary to high school. In the Stokes case, only a small percentage of students, those in Huntingtown Farm, west of South Boulevard, and those in the Sharon neighborhood, right near this borderline, will go to South Meck.
We know that there are structural changes to be made, but I think by taking this little group of people, it's a cosmetic change rather than a real change.
A split of where neighborhood kids go was not the only thing parents were upset about.
Home to school distance will double for my community.
But not all parents came tonight against the changes.
Please do not delay the vote.
The board will breach this contentious topic again in early June. Now, it's not typical for a CMS meeting to last this long. It literally just ended maybe about 10 minutes ago, and I was told by someone from CMS the last time they've seen this many speakers for one topic was actually back in 2017. So this is definitely something new for them and something that a lot of parents are very passionate about. And again, they will be voting to either modify, change, or go forward with the plans for the South Boundary changes at their June 6th meeting. Live in Uptown Charlotte, Shamaria Morrison, WCNC Charlotte.
With your help, WCNC Charlotte is making a difference in our community.
Beautiful day, so many people helping. This is incredible.
Let's spread that love tonight.
Here is a $5,000 check that you guys can use to further the mission.
There is nothing on earth like the feeling of giving back with your hands.
$5,000 to you and Block Love Charlotte for what you guys do.
If you'd like to make a difference, go to WCNC.com/make-a-difference now.
Turning to this new at 5:30. As the number of unhoused senior citizens grows, a local medical center tells us they are seeing more injuries in this age group.
Yeah, they say more and more seniors are actually suffering from falls, with data from the CDC showing the risk of being injured in a fall dramatically increases with age here.
That's right. WCNC Charlotte's Tradisha Woodard shares how the facility is working to fill in the health disparity gap among seniors in our area.
I fell on my right side and I bruised that muscle.
Gwendolyn Cooper knows firsthand what it's like to have an accident at an older age.
Oh, that was the terrible experience. I hate to fall.
Dedicated Senior Medical Center says there's already health disparities among seniors in our area, and the increase in the number of seniors who are homeless makes that gap even wider.
We actually do take care of some patients that currently live in the shelter. And so, yes, we are seeing that more and more as rent is going up and housing has become unaffordable. So the most common one that we've been seeing here are the falls. And so whether it's they got dehydrated from being out in the heat and they fell and had a head injury or something like that and they show up.
Dr. Fulton says older people are more fragile and experiencing an injury could be life-changing.
It could cause a hip fracture. And a lot of times if an elderly person break their hip, they don't usually come back from that.
She says that's why they're working to help many older people 55 and up get back on the right track, both mentally and physically.
We try to get them with social workers, case managers to try to help find housing for them, but provide whatever it is that they may need at that moment.
She says they're willing to work with seniors, even without insurance, in hopes of taking care of those who have taken care of us.
I just feel sorry for them.
Tradisha Woodard, WCNC Charlotte.
And as Mental Health Awareness Month wraps up, new data shows just how much our finances impact our well-being. So here's what you need to know, so you're not left asking, where's the money? Researchers from The Point say personal finances cause more stress than a slew of other issues, including social issues and politics. And finances are especially tough for women and Gen Z. Nearly 60% of women say personal finances affect their mental health. And if making ends meet is keeping you up at night, here are 3 things you can do right now to get back on track. 1, focus on the spending that you actually have control over. For example, look for ways to shave a few dollars off of your grocery bill. Think about store brands instead of those name brands. 2, pay your essential bills. Really take a look at your budget and figure out what is and is not necessary. Look at those bills and compare them to your family needs. Think about paying off things like water, electricity, and housing payments first, so you know that the big essentials are covered. And 3, track your progress when it comes to savings. You can use apps like Mint that can help you show your savings growth over time. This will help boost your confidence and maybe put your mind at ease.
Verify, WCNC Charlotte.
Verify is all about trying to make a difference in the community by making sure that the community has the correct information. This is what we know, and hey, this is what we don't know. Sometimes you're actually surprised by the answer.
Verify the difference.
Verify is a great way to combat that misinformation, making sure that people know the process of the reporting.
Well, this week we told you about a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old accused of robbing a woman in Southwest Charlotte. Only the 9-year-old can be charged. The young ages of these kids involved is raising this question. What is the youngest age a person can be charged with a crime in North Carolina? Wake Up Charlotte's Megan Bragg has the answer in this morning's Verify.
The victim says a 12 and 6-year-old robbed her on Sunday and pointed a BB gun at her on Diamond Creek Circle. While the 12-year-old is facing charges, CMPD says they can't pursue criminal charges against the 6-year-old.
We have to look at that 6-year-old as a victim. He's a victim of his circumstances and environment, right? What 6-year-old? We can't charge a 6-year-old in the state of North Carolina.
So is that true? Let's verify. Our sources, North Carolina Law, the National Juvenile Justice Network, and criminal law attorney Aaron Lee.
Under the current law, a person essentially has to be 8 years old or older to have a proceeding brought against them. If that's a juvenile complaint or criminal charges.
North Carolina was allowing prosecution against 6-year-olds until 2021 when lawmakers bumped up the age to 8 years old.
Under the current law, 8 years old is a cutoff for anything. But so if you're 6, it doesn't matter what crime it is, you cannot be charged. So whether it was a murder, it would not matter. Now, 8 and 9 years old, under the new law, there are some caveats for serious felonies or repeat offenders. They will bring those into court.
A reason for this change, Lee says children don't have the mental capacity to form criminal intent.
They don't know right from wrong. And from an attorney standpoint, also, they can assist in helping their case and defending their case because they don't appreciate the consequences.
According to the National Juvenile Justice Network, 24 states have no minimum age for prosecuting children. But here in North Carolina, we can verify that, yes, it's true. Police cannot charge a 6-year-old with a crime. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Impressive work, as always, from our Megan Bragg. If you have something that you want verified, make sure you email us at verify@wcnc.com.
Today's fire is yet another example of the dangers some employees face on the job, especially in a rapidly expanding city like Charlotte. Some employees go to work to earn an honest living, but some don't end up going home. They die on the job. And despite the government uncovering safety violations in the wake of those deaths, Nate Morbido's Where's the Money investigation revealed employers rarely face hefty fines.
Nate is joining us now to talk about what you've learned in your investigation.
Yeah, sadly, we started investigating this earlier this year when 3 other construction workers passed away after their scaffolding collapsed uptown. Those cases are still under investigation, but for others, we found companies often negotiate reduced penalties. The median fine, just $5,000.
Before dawn could even break, Bradley Zip here in North Carolina would call his big sister in Pennsylvania.
Every morning at 5:30, my phone would ring.
Those calls stopped on September 12th, 2021.
I miss those phone calls because I don't get them no more.
The 51-year-old was silenced forever by fatal levels of hydrogen sulfide inside Valley Proteins, a Fayetteville animal byproduct processing plant.
My brother and the coworker were sent down to a gas chamber.
An employee found the mechanic face down alongside a coworker more than an hour after the men unjammed an auger.
I'll never hear his voice again.
Lori Toth,
And they took that from me.
now speaks on his behalf. After a North Carolina Department of Labor investigation, the state cited the company for several violations and issued fines totaling $13,750.
That is a disgrace.
Valley Proteins is contesting every one of its citations.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
Not the kind of punishment Toth thinks will prevent future deaths.
They're trying to appeal measly pennies for 2 human lives.
This approach is far from unusual. Our team analyzed Occupational Safety and Health Administration fatality reports in North and South Carolina since 2020. We found when state and federal regulators penalize companies for workplace deaths, almost half of the time, the employers fight those fines or settle for lower penalties.
How does that incentivize a company to do more to protect its employees?
We will go to extreme lengths to try to defend those.
Scott Mabry is Chief of Staff for the North Carolina Department of Labor.
Oftentimes the trade-off is to try to get it corrected as soon as we can so that the hazard can't reoccur.
He says if a company contests the original fine, which is calculated based on severity, they're not required to correct any hazards until their appeal is resolved, a process that can take months or even years. That's why the state regularly settles early on for reduced penalties in exchange for immediate corrective action, often asking for extra safety measures above and beyond OSHA standards. Other times, a hearing examiner or judge, upon review, directs the department to lower the fine.
Our goal is to get the hazard corrected.
The state just last year increased its maximum fines in hopes the higher penalties will deter unsafe working conditions. Mabry points out when you look just at the fines themselves, North Carolina retains roughly 90% of all penalty dollars, better than most.
We've done a good job, I think.
Bradley.
Fun-loving, competitive, and high-spirited.
This one is me.
Lori Toth's younger brother didn't get to know her until both were well into adulthood.
We were in foster homes at a young age, so we were all separated.
Now, the family is separated again. And more than a year and a half later,
There's no communication.
his phone call isn't the only one she's waiting on.
They don't even call me. Like I know nothing.
Toth is desperate to find out how the state will ultimately punish his employer for failing to protect him.
I have nightmares thinking about how my brother died.
Bradley Zip died just 3 weeks into his new job.
Valley Proteins declined comment for this story, but a document obtained by WCNC Charlotte shows the company has since made several changes. Among them, installing a ventilation system and adding monitoring for hydrogen sulfide at all times. The document goes on to say the company still questions whether hydrogen sulfide was the actual cause of death in this case.
Wow. Just an eye-opening story. We're really glad you dove into this, Nate.
And let's remember, workplace deaths went up last year in North Carolina.
Wow. Thank you, Nate.
And we'll remind you at home, you can learn more about this story if you go to our website. You can also find other Where's the Money investigations. Once again, WCNC.com/money.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here. Let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Not great news for Saturday. Looks like a washout, but Sunday does look a little bit better, and Monday looks even better than that. You can see what's going to happen. Saturday washout, light and scattered showers Sunday, then becoming more breaks of sunshine, isolated rain as we go into Monday. What's going on right now? Well, let's look at this system. The leading edge, not making much progress northwest. We kind of expected this. Overnight, don't expect any rain. Probably going to wake up to dry conditions Saturday, but once we get to the middle of the day, this moisture starts moving in from the coast, and that's where this low pressure is developing. At the same time, we've got high pressure to the north, kind of setting up the perfect setup for, or in this case, the bad setup for rain and cold temperatures. Temperatures in the 60s now. Whatever the high is tonight at midnight, that will be the high temperature for Saturday, because the dew points are dry and getting drier. Why is that important? Well, as rain falls into this dry air, it'll evaporate the rain. That will cool the air down, causing chilly conditions. So overnight, expect some sprinkles to develop, but mainly cloudy. Temperatures in the mid-50s, northeast breeze. Here's the setup. Low pressure tracks inland, so rain mid to late morning, probably more like lunchtime. It won't rain the entire time tomorrow, but there'll be waves of it. Sunday, Monday, things get a little bit more interesting, where we might see some breaks in the rainfall. So let me show you the closer in futurecast, because I'm going to put the temperatures on here as well. You see the low 60s tonight. We'll go into tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Here comes that leading edge, likely dry for most of the Piedmont into the mountains. By the middle of the day, rain starts to move into the Piedmont. This is when the temperatures fall because of that evaporative cooling. And you see by the middle of the day, raining pretty steadily. Now, what you got to be careful of in these scenarios is, I don't see green here. Is it going to be done raining? Probably not, because what you have to understand is we've got northeast winds at the surface, but warm, humid air coming in from the south. So while there might not be heavy rain like you see in the greens and yellows, there's probably still plenty of mist and drizzle falling where there's not green. The models have a tough time resolving that. So I don't even think it will be completely done raining. It'll just be mist or drizzle. And you can see that persist pretty much all night. Rain develops over us into Sunday morning. Now Sunday, this is where things get interesting. I've shown the futurecast and people go, oh, it looks great Sunday. I'm not so sure. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're like, oh yeah, sure, there's not heavy rain overspread, but that's a lot of light rain, drizzle, and mist. You see all the little patches of green? That means it's probably misting and drizzling. And for the NASCAR officials, getting a race in with mist or drizzle, the track is still wet. So this is where I have issues. Like, we're going to have trouble drying this track late Sunday. Even though it may not be pouring like it is on Saturday, it's going to be tough to dry the track. We're hoping that the rain lets up enough and just becomes low clouds and maybe some fog. But you go into Sunday night, there's still light rain and drizzle over us. And the real breaks don't start to develop until Monday. We wake up to fog and drizzle, and then during the day, Monday, middle of the day, the sun might actually break out in some locations, and we're just looking at isolated showers, maybe even a thunderstorm if the sun is out long enough. So Monday does look pretty decent right now. Let's break down the rain chances for Saturday first. This is the hour by hour, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'll move my head out of the way here real quickly. You can see it ramps up from 20-30% in the morning to 90% by the afternoon. Let's look at Sunday's rain chances. It ramps down as the day goes on. So 70-80% early, ramping down to 40% by evening. So that's a good sign. If we look at the flash flood guidance as we go into the weekend, this is tonight's flash flood guidance. Tomorrow, most of our region in the yellow, that means a medium risk for flash flooding, a high risk along the coast. So if you're on the beaches and the coast this weekend, Saturday's the worst day as well. It does get better as the weekend goes on, because even though Sunday, you can see there is a low chance for the Piedmont, still got a medium chance for the mountains. So this is why Sunday, it doesn't just shut off, folks, on Sunday. It just looks lighter. I think it's kind of a deceiving setup. Here's a look at the amounts. So we'll break down the amounts here. You see how the totals don't really ramp up until tomorrow evening. So it starts light, picks up, and then as we go into Sunday morning, there's a couple areas, maybe 1 to 2, 3 inches in the mountains, foothills. We go through Sunday afternoon, and you can see the amounts are light. So that's why you kind of think it's Mr. Drizzle more so than real heavy rain. But you see the totals in the mountains where we could see 2 to 3 inches of rain. So we'll break down the weekend forecast again. Here's the whole holiday forecast day by day. So let me play that first. And you'll see that Saturday's the worst day, 90% chance of rain. Sunday, 80%, kind of more scattered. Monday, isolated, and even some breaks in the sun or in the cloud cover that we could see the sunshine break out at times. So here's the hour by hour look for the weekend, just to give you kind of a recap. I think this will help you kind of understand better, and I will move my head out of the way so you can see it. But you get the idea. Saturday, 50s, that would be a record if we don't get to 60 degrees or higher. But I think that's probably going to happen at midnight, but that's cold. Let's just face it. And the winds are going to be howling. In all of this, I haven't even talked about the wind speeds tomorrow. Just to show you real quickly the wind speeds. Look at these winds. Sustained, 10, 15, 20 miles per hour. A gust could be as high as 40 miles per hour tomorrow. So on top of all this, it's just a windy, wet, miserable Saturday into Sunday with slow improvement. In fact, the best weather is going to happen at the end of the weekend when the holiday weekend ends. So I wish I had better news for you. Remember, I'm just the messenger. I do not make the weather. I just forecast it, and this is the honest truth of what's going to happen this weekend. So I will post an update tomorrow morning as well. By then, we'll have a pretty good idea on the leading edge of it moving in, and keep your fingers crossed. I'm still optimistic that late Sunday we could get some racing in, because remember, we only have to get halfway, so that's still a possibility. So you're not going to see any significant changes until probably during the race or at race time on Sunday, and they'll have to make the call then. So be patient. It's going to be probably a wait and see kind of attitude for the weekend. Have a great weekend. Remember, it's Memorial Day. The reason for the weekend is to remember everybody who sacrificed for our country. So just keep that in mind when you're struggling with some of your plans this weekend here on Memorial Day weekend.
WCNC Charlotte.
Weather is a kind of science that you get to see and experience every day. And I think some people don't even realize how much it affects them. That weather has a huge impact on how it threatens your family, your livelihood, or your home. So I think it really is one of those defining things we do that really affects everybody in our community.
See the difference.
That process of giving you a warning ahead of time and keeping you and your family safe is really important to me, because I live here too. It's my family, it's my friends, it's my neighbors.
WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and folks all across the Carolinas are bringing attention to this nationwide crisis. It is a deep and personal topic for a lot of folks, especially for our kids. In fact, suicide, the second leading cause of death for kids between the ages of 10 and 18. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to speak with a Charlotte woman pushing to stop suicides, and she's doing it in a really unique way. But first, joining us now is Jaron Doby. He's a psychotherapist for Novant Health. Jaron, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it is National Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't believe this was a thing several, decades ago. So do you think that we are making meaningful progress in talking about these things like mental health, or are we still just paying lip service to it and not really getting down to the root of the problem that is, by all accounts, a national problem?
Mm-hmm. I'm a fond believer of that no press is bad press, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. So ultimately being able to put more eyeballs on mental health, having more conversations, seeing more commercials, just seeing more attention being paid to it can never be a bad thing.
We're entering a period of time that suicides are actually the highest. People often associate depression with the winter months, but it's also an issue in the spring and summer. Why is now a time that it deserves so much attention?
Mental health is something that always deserves our attention, because it is something that folks deal with every single solitary day. I mean, statistically, 1 in 4 adults deal with a mental health related illness or disorder in a given year. That's very much so significant. And more folks are actually coming out and being able to discuss the issues that it is that they've been dealing with mental health, when beforehand, of course, like the stigmas and stereotypes and things of that nature, resources may have prevented them from actually being able to express any of this. So it's always been important, and it will remain to be important, that everyone definitely make sure that they pay attention to their mental health.
That brings me to the question of, do you feel like mental health issues are worse now, or are we just more comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, I would say that that's a slippery slope to say that things are worse. I feel like that more people are coming out and being able to express those things. So don't be shocked if like certain statistics actually begin to grow. Not for the fact that it's happening to more people necessarily, but it may just be that more people are actually taking an opportunity to report these things. So we have to make sure that we're paying attention to that, because it's always good for folks to actually come to the forefront and actually tell someone that what it is that they are dealing with. So when we see those numbers rise, or if we see more people coming out to talk about it, that means that we have more people that are actually, like I said, shedding the stigma or taking an opportunity to be more comfortable and being able to express themselves as it does pertain to their mental health.
In your experience, in your practice, how have things changed post-pandemic versus, say, the year 2019 versus the year 2023? What's different?
I would say between the last couple of years, and I would say within the COVID years, there's just been a huge boom in the world of mental health. What do I mean by that? There are more folks that are actually coming out to seek services, following up with their doctors, asking for recommendations, seeking referrals, actually taking an opportunity to ask for help. You know, so this is one of those things that we can't turn our nose up or down to, that folks are actually seeking help. COVID was definitely one of those things that I say was just the rocket that really sent mental health into the stratosphere, and really making sure that more folks are aware of services that are around, but being more comfortable to take advantage of services is something that we've seen a significant rise in. So this is never a problem.
Yeah, pandemic also changed sort of how we interact with our doctors. Telehealth, it was around before the pandemic, but it certainly became much bigger during the pandemic. What are the pitfalls and obstacles that come with something like telehealth? I know it can be a positive, but are there limitations for what you feel like you can do?
Right. I'm a fine believer of, and especially my clinical opinion, that there's no such thing as one size fits all. There may be some folks that are very much so comfortable in being able to meet with a provider virtually. This is something that can create convenience for folks, right? They're also in the comfort of their own homes, or in a place where it is that they are most comfortable to be able to speak. But also at the end of the day, you know, this may be an inconvenience for folks as well. Everyone is not dealing with the same kind of technology that is up to date, more so than anything, in order to be able to take advantage of an actual virtual visit with a provider. So it's important to make sure that we are acknowledging that as well, and making sure that services are provided for folks in person, if that's what it is that they actually do desire. So I most certainly encourage folks to make sure that they pay attention to what it is that they are most comfortable with, and being able to seek a provider that will be able to accommodate them.
In your practice, just anecdotally speaking, what do you see as the biggest pressing issue that most patients are dealing with? Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Are there any common through lines that you see throughout your practice?
As far as any trends or common diagnoses and things of that nature, I wouldn't be able to say that that's actually true. I would say that it's pretty much a mixed bag. You know, every patient that it is that I see can be dealing with something different. You know, at the end of the day, why? Because we as individuals are very much so very different. So it can be from the lines of depression, anxiety, any kind of trauma that it is that they've experienced, young children and adults, and dealing with ADHD and things of that nature. And of course, more of the diagnoses that incorporate psychosis of some kind. So we're ready for anything that very much so comes our way here at Novant, but it's definitely been folks coming in dealing with different issues for sure.
And it's a good reminder also for folks who are watching this, listening to this. What are the resources out there available for people who do need help?
I always like to bring attention to the 988 contact number for emergency mental health needs or suicide risk. I like to tell folks, think 911 for physical emergencies, think 988 for mental health emergencies. It was a 1-800 number, if I'm not mistaken. That number is actually still operational, but it's a lot easier to be able to dial the 988 number. You can talk with a trained crisis professional that is located in your catchment area, that is very much so aware of the resources that are available to you, to be able to make sure that they provide good references, but good help to you in the moment. It remains to be important that folks definitely make sure that they become aware of that number, put it in your phones, stick it to your refrigerator, take an opportunity to make sure that you're very much so aware, because you'll never know when a mental health crisis will occur, and being aware of such resource that you can literally get your hands on to speak with somebody 24/7 is very much so important.
Yeah, and final question here on this being the National Mental Health Awareness Month. What is your tip to folks who might not have their mental health at the top of their mind, but also want to keep self-care in mind and do want to be proactive about taking care of their mental health?
I would say definitely make sure to take an honest inventory, of how it is that you are feeling on a day-to-day, what thoughts are coming to mind, and what behaviors are kind of manifesting as a result of those thoughts and feelings combined, of course. It is very much so important that folks begin to practice mindfulness and really making sure that they are aware of how their thoughts impact their feelings and how their feelings impact their behaviors. This can be signs that there is something on the horizon as it relates to issues to be addressed with your mental health. So if things are just a little bit different and you're noticing that, or it's a little bit harder for you to be able to cope with what it is that you are dealing with naturally in your life, it's important to make sure that you do seek the opinion of a professional in order to make sure there isn't anything serious going on, or to make sure that you begin to get treatment so that things don't worsen in any particular way.
Taking that honest inventory, a good thing to keep in mind. All right, Jerry and Dobie, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a great day.
You too. More Flashpoint after this. This South Carolina man whose wife was killed by an alleged drunk driver on their wedding day filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the driver and multiple bars she was allegedly at that day. Many of you have reached out and asked, can bars really be held legally responsible for the fatal crash? Wake Up Charlotte's Megan Bragg took your questions to a South Carolina lawyer for this morning's Verify.
Samantha Hutchinson was killed and her new husband was injured when the golf cart they were riding in was hit by an alleged drunk driver earlier this month. Last week, the suspect's toxicology report showed she had a BAC of .261, which is more than 3 times the legal limit. A lawsuit filed on behalf of the victims says the driver, as well as the bar where she was drinking, are responsible for the deadly crash. So our question, can a bar or restaurant be held legally responsible for a deadly DUI crash? Let's verify. Our sources are the South Carolina General Statute and South Carolina trial attorney Robert Goings. The South Carolina statute states no holder of a permit authorizing the sale of beer or wine or a servant, agent, or employee of the permittee may knowingly sell beer or wine to an intoxicated person. Goings says for decades, the South Carolina courts have upheld that a person or entity who knowingly sells alcohol in an illegal or wrongful manner can be held civilly responsible for violating the law.
Your license can be revoked if you do sell alcohol to someone in an intoxicated manner.
Goings says when it comes to proving the case in court, that's where it can get a little tricky.
And oftentimes that's proven in court by video surveillance, that's proven in court by bar tabs, that's proven in court by witness testimony. We would show that an injured party is liable and it can establish that the restaurant knew or should have known that it was over-serving an intoxicated person based on their signs of intoxication.
So we can verify that, yes, a bar or restaurant can be held legally responsible for a deadly DUI crash. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
And folks, if there's something you'd like us to verify, all you got to do, email us at verify@wcnc.com.
Welcome back. Tonight we're celebrating a Clover Middle School teacher. She suffered tremendous personal loss while still showing up for her students every single day and inspiring them to believe in themselves.
What a teacher. WCNC Charlotte's Ben Thompson introduces us to our newest Hyundai hometown hero, and this time our hero gets not 1, but 2 surprises.
Everybody take a seat.
Becca Bridges has a job that would intimidate most of us.
Finish reading today?
Teaching 8th grade English to a class of energetic teenagers at Oak Ridge Middle School in Clover.
Go ahead and sign up. You need to sign up for at least 2 events.
To help surprise her, we had a little help.
We have some very special guests this morning.
Principal Will Largen. He told Becca that we were doing a story on the end of the school year.
Why do you teach? I teach because I love kids. Kids are my heart. They are my soul.
And as we found out, that feeling is mutual.
Do you see it?
These kids have supported her through a gut-wrenching time. 3 years ago this week, Becca suddenly lost her 5-year-old daughter, Corey, to a rare cancer. Her husband then had his own cancer diagnosis. And in the middle of it all, the family lost their minivan in a storm. That is why, joined by about 100 students, we walked Becca outside to a well-deserved and unexpected shocker.
As the dealers from Charlotte representing Hyundai, to award you as our hometown hero.
Thank you.
For that, we'd like to give you a brand new vehicle.
Thanks to the Charlotte area Hyundai dealers, Becca is getting the keys to a brand new 2023 Hyundai Santa Fe.
There's no one that emulates the hometown hero more than your story.
How many want to try to fit in the car?
Students just as excited to hop in the new ride as their teacher.
I would say the kids were probably the best therapy for her. She comes every single day. She sees those smiling faces. They want to learn.
It's the surprise of a lifetime for someone overdue for good news.
There's one more thing.
And in this case, the good news for Becca isn't quite over.
So when we saw your nomination, it touched everybody. And so with that, we are donating $10,000 to Levine in honor of your daughter's memory.
Hyundai donating $10,000 to pediatric cancer research at Levine Children's Hospital. Research that might help families like Becca's.
My daughter would be so excited.
A bittersweet surprise for a teacher who's overdue for some good luck and a new ride. In Clover, Ben Thompson, WCNC Charlotte.
4 high school seniors from North Carolina were named U.S. Presidential Scholars this year. 2 of those seniors are from our area, attending schools in Cabarrus and Union counties.
Yes, the White House Commission on Presidential Scholars selects these scholars annually based on their academic success, their artistic and technical excellence, and also demonstration of commitment to community service and leadership. WCNC Charlotte Shamaria Morrison spoke with one of those scholars set to graduate in just a few days.
Josiah Young is the type of student you hear teachers and administrators praise.
I don't know, I was just super impressed by it, just your whole demeanor.
And other students look up to. He's a member of the DECA Club.
It's a business education organization that prepares students for careers, specifically in marketing, business management, finance, and hospitality and tourism.
He's also a successful entrepreneur, having started his own sports agency called Headset Sports,
which is a future sports agency that will hopefully build athletes' brands and prepare them for their success on and off the field, court.
He's a young man with big plans. That's why it was no surprise when he was named a Presidential Scholar in Career and Technical Education.
I've taken at the school an entrepreneurship course. I'm in that right now. I've taken 2 marketing courses, an event planning course.
CTE programs, they offer a combination of academic and hands-on skills to prepare students for careers.
I decided not to just stop in the classroom and try to keep applying those concepts to the real world. And
of the 3.7 million students expected to graduate from high school this year, only 161 nationwide are selected as Presidential Scholars. And of this, 4 students from that group are from here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Young is now one in a small class of the nation's top performing students.
When I heard the news, I was actually walking to lunch and I didn't know what to say. I was looking around should I tell people about this or not?
And this isn't the first time Young has found himself on the radar of the White House.
At the end of 5th grade, I was also given a presidential education award as well. Back then it was President Obama who was the president, and I was graduating elementary school, and now to see graduating high school and it's all come full circle, it is definitely a blessing.
Both his school and family couldn't be prouder. And the other scholar being celebrated, Nipun Gorantla, he goes to Marvin Ridge High School in Union County. Shamaria Morrison, WCNC Charlotte.
Wake up to the news that matters most with meteorologist and traffic reporter Chris Mulcahy.
And we're all clear. We're keeping you smarter, safer, and on time.
Start your day the Mulcahy way. See the difference. 4:30 to 7 on WCNC Charlotte.
Well, the weekend rain could bring some relief for your allergy symptoms, but who do you have to blame for your allergies in the first place? Wake Up Charlotte's Megan Bragg is looking into where our allergies come from in this morning's Verify.
We can pin responsibilities on our parents for a lot of things, but can we blame them for our sneezing, wheezing, and allergic reactions? The question, are your allergies largely inherited? Let's verify. Our source is Dr. Alec Gupta, allergist with Atrium Health, the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, and the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic explains when you have allergies, what's happening is this. Your immune system makes antibodies that identify an allergen as harmful when it isn't. Your immune system then reacts, activating inflammation of the skin, sinuses, airways, or digestive system. And those allergies are often passed down from parents to children, according to the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Food allergies, seasonal allergies, asthma, some forms of asthma, eczema, they all fall under this kind of category. If your parents had one of those things, then yeah, the risk is that your child could be more genetically susceptible to developing one of those other things.
Dr. Gupta says the risk of having an allergy increases when one or both parents have one. However, that doesn't mean their children will have the exact same allergy.
Even if both parents had the shrimp allergy, doesn't necessarily mean that you're at a higher risk of having a shrimp allergy. You could have a higher risk of having eczema.
Dr. Gupta says it also doesn't mean these inherited allergies will always show up.
Or if your parents had that genetic, not necessarily dysfunction, but just kind of change, then you have that genetic change. It doesn't always show up.
So we can verify that, yes, susceptibility to allergies is largely inherited. However, that doesn't mean you will display the exact same allergic reactions as your parents do. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Excellent work there from Megan as always. If you want something verified, make sure you email us at verify@wcnc.com.
New at 6, hundreds of children are in foster care right now in Mecklenburg County waiting to hear who they'll call mom or dad. But there aren't nearly enough foster families to care for all of the kids who need them.
And tonight we meet one family who decided to be part of the solution, and they ended up with a story they never expected here. But even that wasn't easy.
WCNC Charlotte's Michelle Bowden explains in this exclusive story.
This family set out to be a stopover place for kids going through tough times, but they soon switched gears and decided to adopt. Only there was nothing quick about it. It took almost 4 years, a broken system worse than ever before, thanks to COVID.
With stripes? You want that on your toe?
There are some things you just want your mom to take care of.
There you go. Do you feel better now? Have a kiss? It's been truly the most hardest thing that we've ever done, but also the most beautiful for sure.
Robin and Bo Leonard were almost empty nesters. 2 kids in college, 2 almost there, when a friend became a foster parent, prompting them to sign up as well.
And our goal initially was to have 100 kids, just a few weeks, a few months at a time, and have a temporary situation. That was what we thought we were getting into and would provide.
And then the second child into their home, a 13-month-old little girl.
Leah came to us in January of 2019.
She had just not been taken care of.
She was really dirty. The way she acted the first time we gave her a bath, I don't know that she had ever had a bath.
And bringing her in and watching that transformation was really special to be a part of. Watching her smile come back, watching her find words, watching her learn how to play, watch her gobble down food was just it was just an amazing thing to be a part of.
When she came to us, we thought we would have her for a week, and she had been with us for 3 or 4 months when we found out that she was going to be a big sister and that she had a full-blooded sister on the way. So Hattie was born just a few days short of a year of when we got Leah, and she's been with us since she was 2 days old.
When social workers told them there was no one in the family fit to take the girls, they immediately made the decision to adopt.
We were having monthly visits, court dates, working with bio parents and social workers, my social worker and their social worker. So there's just a lot of outside stress that comes into it. So that's the hard part, and the unknowing of what tomorrow is going to bring.
But it would take 3 long years.
Because the cases took so long, there were judges that came and went from family court. We also had some changes in the attorneys for the county. So there were a lot of people coming and going, and it felt like we had to start over every time there was a new person.
Leah is very bright and very aware and knew just enough to know that my last name is different. When I go to school, she just had enough to have this yearning for permanency. And when the adoption came through for her, she just felt such relief and such happiness around it, which was really just so special to be a part of it.
Leah is now 5, Hattie now 3. We sat down with the girls themselves.
Are we doing over? No.
What were the papers? What did the papers mean?
I got adopted. I get to be in a family.
The Leonards say their family will never be the same, and they are so grateful for that.
We're nothing special. We're just ordinary people that got to do an extraordinary thing, and it's changed every single one of us.
Their oldest daughter, Molly, went through training to be a foster mom. Daughter Ellie is in college studying to be a social worker.
But it's full and it's good, and there's so much laughter. I'm not trying to romanticize it. I mean, there's hard days and it's exhausting, and I'm so much older doing this, but it's amazing to do it. It's just an amazing thing to be a part of.
Coming up tomorrow, the shocking thing we discovered while working on this story. What happens when there aren't enough foster families, when a child has nowhere to go? What we found out, it will haunt you. That story, you won't want to miss it. That's tomorrow at 6. Back to you.
When it comes to WCNC's chief meteorologist Brad Panovich, our viewers tell the whole story.
Hey, if you're new to the area, this meteorologist is awesome.
I always stick with Brad Panovich when it comes to severe weather. He's rarely wrong.
You should follow Brad if you don't already. He's usually right on the money with his forecast.
I don't look at anything else besides what Brad says. We are fortunate to have him here.
Brad Panovich. Experience the difference with WCNC Charlotte weather.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. This weekend unofficially kicks off the summer season, but recent shark bites across the country have piqued interest in an age-old summer question for beachgoers.
Are the beaches safe from sharks this summer? Let's connect the dots. Movies like Jaws and The Shallows terrify many and even keep some people out of the water altogether. But scientists and researchers who study sharks say potentially dangerous interactions are uncommon. There have been typically around 70 to 80 unprovoked shark bites a year worldwide, and they're getting even more rare. Out of thousands who swim in the ocean every year, there were only 57 unprovoked bites in 2022, and only 5 were fatal. It comes as the population of sharks declines globally. White sharks, bull sharks, and tiger sharks cause the most fatalities, but many interactions happen with smaller species that are unlikely to cause serious injuries. But it might feel like it's happening more often thanks to social media and shark reporting apps. However, you shouldn't worry. Experts add you're at a much greater risk of getting hurt in a car accident on the way to you are to get seriously injured by a shark bite. And that's connecting the dots.
When did you know what you wanted to be?
Hey Mom, the weather's on!
WCNC Charlotte's chief meteorologist Brad Panovich always knew what he was meant to do.
All right, don't forget your umbrella.
In fact, he joined the American Meteorological Society when he was 13. Now Brad is all grown up. You can see him right here on WCNC Charlotte, making sure you're informed and safe.
Hey, where did all my hair go?
Experience the difference.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here. Let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Not great news for Saturday. Looks like a washout, but Sunday does look a little bit better, and Monday looks even better than that. You can see what's going to happen. Saturday washout, light and scattered showers Sunday, then becoming more breaks of sunshine, isolated rain as we go into Monday. What's going on right now? Well, let's look at this system. The leading edge, not making much progress northwest. We kind of expected this. Overnight, don't expect any rain. Probably going to wake up to dry conditions Saturday, but once we get to the middle of the day, this moisture starts moving in from the coast, and that's where this low pressure is developing. At the same time, we've got high pressure to the north, kind of setting up the perfect setup for, or in this case, the bad setup for rain and cold temperatures. Temperatures in the 60s now. Whatever the high is tonight at midnight, that will be the high temperature for Saturday, because the dew points are dry and getting drier. Why is that important? Well, as rain falls into this dry air, it'll evaporate the rain. That will cool the air down, causing chilly conditions. So overnight, expect some sprinkles to develop, but mainly cloudy. Temperatures in the mid-50s, northeast breeze. Here's the setup. Low pressure tracks inland, so rain mid to late morning, probably more like lunchtime. It won't rain the entire time tomorrow, but there'll be waves of it. Sunday, Monday, things get a little bit more interesting, where we might see some breaks in the rainfall. So let me show you the closer in futurecast, because I'm going to put the temperatures on here as well. You see the low 60s tonight. We'll go into tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Here comes that leading edge, likely dry for most of the Piedmont into the mountains. By the middle of the day, rain starts to move into the Piedmont. This is when the temperatures fall because of that evaporative cooling. And you see by the middle of the day, raining pretty steadily. Now, what you got to be careful of in these scenarios is, I don't see green here. Is it going to be done raining? Probably not, because what you have to understand is we've got northeast winds at the surface, but warm, humid air coming in from the south. So while there might not be heavy rain like you see in the greens and yellows, there's probably still plenty of mist and drizzle falling where there's not green. The models have a tough time resolving that. So I don't even think it will be completely done raining. It'll just be mist or drizzle. And you can see that persist pretty much all night. Rain develops over us into Sunday morning. Now Sunday, this is where things get interesting. I've shown the futurecast and people go, oh, it looks great Sunday. I'm not so sure. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're like, oh yeah, sure, there's not heavy rain overspread, but that's a lot of light rain, drizzle, and mist. You see all the little patches of green? That means it's probably misting and drizzling. And for the NASCAR officials, getting a race in with mist or drizzle, the track is still wet. So this is where I have issues. Like, we're going to have trouble drying this track late Sunday. Even though it may not be pouring like it is on Saturday, it's going to be tough to dry the track. We're hoping that the rain lets up enough and just becomes low clouds and maybe some fog. But you go into Sunday night, there's still light rain and drizzle over us. And the real breaks don't start to develop until Monday. We wake up to fog and drizzle, and then during the day, Monday, middle of the day, the sun might actually break out in some locations, and we're just looking at isolated showers, maybe even a thunderstorm if the sun is out long enough. So Monday does look pretty decent right now. Let's break down the rain chances for Saturday first. This is the hour by hour, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'll move my head out of the way here real quickly. You can see it ramps up from 20-30% in the morning to 90% by the afternoon. Let's look at Sunday's rain chances. It ramps down as the day goes on. So 70-80% early, ramping down to 40% by evening. So that's a good sign. If we look at the flash flood guidance as we go into the weekend, this is tonight's flash flood guidance. Tomorrow, most of our region in the yellow, that means a medium risk for flash flooding, a high risk along the coast. So if you're on the beaches and the coast this weekend, Saturday's the worst day as well. It does get better as the weekend goes on, because even though Sunday, you can see there is a low chance for the Piedmont, still got a medium chance for the mountains. So this is why Sunday, it doesn't just shut off, folks, on Sunday. It just looks lighter. I think it's kind of a deceiving setup. Here's a look at the amounts. So we'll break down the amounts here. You see how the totals don't really ramp up until tomorrow evening. So it starts light, picks up, and then as we go into Sunday morning, you know, there's a couple areas, maybe 1 to 2, 3 inches in the mountains, foothills. We go through Sunday afternoon, and you can see the amounts are light. So that's why you kind of think it's Mr. Drizzle more so than real heavy rain. But you see the totals in the mountains where we could see 2 to 3 inches of rain. So we'll break down the weekend forecast again. Here's the whole holiday forecast day by day. So let me play that first. And you'll see that Saturday's the worst day, 90% chance of rain. Sunday, 80%, kind of more scattered. Monday, isolated, and even some breaks in the sun or in the cloud cover that we could see the sunshine break out at times. So here's the hour by hour look for the weekend, just to give you kind of a recap. I think this will help you kind of understand better, and I will move my head out of the way so you can see it. But you get the idea. Saturday, 50s, that would be a record if we don't get to 60 degrees or higher. But I think that's probably going to happen at midnight. But that's cold. Let's just face it. And the winds are going to be howling. In all of this, I haven't even talked about the wind speeds tomorrow. Just to show you real quickly the wind speeds. Look at these winds. Sustained, 10, 15, 20 miles per hour. A gust could be as high as 40 miles per hour tomorrow. So on top of all this, it's just a windy, wet, miserable Saturday into Sunday with slow improvement. In fact, the best weather is going to happen at the end of the weekend when the holiday weekend ends. So I wish I had better news for you. Remember, I'm just the messenger. I do not make the weather. I just forecast it, and this is the honest truth of what's going to happen this weekend. So I will post an update tomorrow morning as well. By then, we'll have a pretty good idea on the leading edge of it moving in, and keep your fingers crossed. I'm still optimistic that late Sunday we could get some racing in, because remember, we only have to get halfway, so that's still a possibility. So you're not going to see any significant changes until probably during the race or at race time on Sunday, and they'll have to make the call then. So be patient. It's going to be probably a wait and see kind of attitude for the weekend. Have a great weekend. Remember, it's Memorial Day. The reason for the weekend is to remember everybody who sacrificed for our country. So just keep that in mind when you're struggling with some of your plans this weekend here on Memorial Day weekend.
Today marks 6 months since a Cornelius girl went missing. Madalena Kojikari was last seen getting off a school bus back on November 21st. Her mother and stepfather remain behind bars, facing felony charges for failing to report her disappearance. Today, the Cornelius Police Department sharing new video of Madalena, shown enjoying time at the beach as well as the pool. Police are still asking for anyone with information on her whereabouts to come forward. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre bringing us their story now from Cornelius.
Yes, the search for Madalena Kojikari continues, and with new video and images shared today, community members I spoke to say it brings a new sense of hope that Madalena will be found safe. Cornelius police shared this video on social media saying Madalena should be getting ready to enjoy the warm summer months at the beach and swimming. The video shows Madalena at the beach and at the pool in a mermaid costume. The police department says along with the State Bureau of Investigation, they continue to work to find and bring Madalena home. Meanwhile, asking the public to help by sharing her photo. It is something members of groups like Where is Madalena Kojikari saying 6 months later they continue to do to help raise awareness about the missing young girl.
We continue to spark that hope just by spreading her name and her story. Our group's going live tonight just to do a 6-month case review. Any day you can reach someone new, and that someone new may have some more information for us that we didn't have before, that law enforcement can find useful in bringing Madalena home to those that care and love for her.
The case has raised many questions about Madalena's disappearance and comes with conflicting statements from both Madalena's mother and stepfather, who maintain they do not know where Madalena is. The police department is asking folks to take a hard look at the video and the pictures, and anyone with information is asked to come forward. Now, for a breakdown timeline of Madalena's disappearance, head to WCNC.com. In Cornelius, Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
The Coca-Cola 600 is this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but before those engines rev up, meteorologist KJ Jacobs explains the impact weather can have on NASCAR races.
NASCAR is at the mercy of Mother Nature on race day, with 36 races annually spanning spring, summer, and fall. Former NASCAR driver Jesse Little says it's critical to keep your cool when temperatures spike.
It's grueling in the sense of, trying to stay focused for that long and that kind of environment where things are happening very quickly and the adrenaline's there. You try to do a really good job of hydrating and nourishment.
A temperature breakdown of 3 components of NASCAR: the driver, the car, and the track. The driver can experience temperatures inside the car of 130 to 150 degrees, the car with temperatures of the tires at 200 degrees, and the track temperature can reach 130 degrees. Drivers rely on an air conditioning process through the helmet and cool suits.
It basically will take air that travels around their vehicle on the outside, it'll funnel it through a hose And that tiny hose will be fed to a NACA duct, we call it, onto our helmet that has little tiny openings that will blow down on top of the head and kind of just gives you a nice fresh air feeling.
Keeping track of wind direction and track conditions is part of the strategy to win.
With the cloud coming over and covering maybe part of the racetrack, you can feel, physically this track, turns 3 and 4 are colder than turns 1 and 2.
Essentially, when you're moving into track position or finding your way around the
Yep.
track, you're searching for better grip.
Absolutely.
And that better grip is an indication that the track is cooler.
Colder, could be colder. The hotter the surface or the hotter the tire, just the more, the less grip the vehicle will have, the more sliding around it's going to do. Sideways, front and back. And then as that sun sets or as that temperature cools off, that's when the track will pick up speed, pick up grip.
Although rain is not ideal for NASCAR, the road courses can handle light rain once the cars are outfitted with rain tires, wipers, and mud flaps. According to NASCAR's weather policy, if inclement weather strikes when the race is at its halfway point, NASCAR will declare the race and a winner. However, if it's just a brief shower, then they'll continue the race after a weather delay. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, I'm meteorologist KJ Jacobs, WCNC Charlotte.
And if you want to keep boosting your weather IQ, all you got to do, take out your phone and scan the QR code at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. It'll take you to our Weather IQ YouTube page.
The new and improved WCNC Plus, now on Roku and Fire TV. Watch local live newscast, get extended breaking news coverage, and see local programs and specials. The new and improved WCNC Plus, now on Roku and Fire TV.
Welcome back. A tour of Latin American cuisine while speaking the native language, all while visiting a home where the family talks to you all in Spanish. We're not talking about a trip abroad here. It's happening right here in the Queen City.
Yes, so we found out how a local business owner found out the answer to the question, where's the money, in our booming Hispanic and Latino sections of Charlotte.
¿Todo bien? ¿Ya están listos?
A dialogue over dinner, but we're not in the Dominican.
Oh, qué rico.
This is Morazan, a Latin American restaurant in East Charlotte and one of the stops on Dual Vida Language Academy's Spanish Immersion Tour, a service taking students business by business through Charlotte's Spanish-speaking neighborhoods.
You are having conversations with different people, you're talking, you're also, being directed with different things. So, for example, sitting down and eating.
Vivian Page recently embarked on this exploration of Charlotte's cultural melting pot. She says she studied Spanish all through school, even taking that learning abroad. But being able to keep things fresh while not going too far away.
It's great to be able to be home, be able to, have a program and an activity and experience that I can, do with my husband, but also I can bring my kids along as well.
Tiara Mahoney Paulino is the CEO of Dual Vida. The Spanish language instructor started her career tutoring and classroom teaching, but has really leaned into immersion learning locally with her new business idea.
We start off at Compare, visiting the local grocery store. We take them in, talk about key ingredients to the Latin diet, and then we come over here to Morazan, where we get to taste some of those ingredients that we talk about in the grocery store, and then we finish off at Manolo's Bakery. Not everybody has the level of comfort, the level of safety, or the understanding of how to travel abroad and feel good doing it, or they might not even have the resources to be able to make it happen.
Meantime, the Hispanic and Latino cultures in the Queen City are rich and growing. The latest census numbers show Charlotte is 15% Hispanic or Latino, and the number of Latinos in Mecklenburg County has grown 52% over the past 10 years. Morazan manager Jesus Leon says he was among those moving to the area during that time frame.
Charlotte se ha convertido como una ciudad llena de hispanos y se ha visto más tiendas hispanas, comercios hispanos. Se ha visto también mucha gente que ha convertido, hay tienditas donde como las pulgas, donde venden cosas hispanas, como venden cosas de su país para representar la patria de cada persona.
One thing that I try to tell people is we're going to be your clientele. We're your local business owners. We're your students. We're your supervisors. So we're here. So why not learn how to engage with us in a really meaningful, culturally sustaining, and linguistically sustaining way?
Sounds like a lot of fun, right? And really educational too. Dual Vita's immersion excursions cost about $150 per person. Children under 2 are free. And if you'd like to learn about a special immersion program where you actually come to Tiara's house and learn from and converse with her family, you can go to our website, WCNC.com, to learn more about that. But that's going to be about $400 per night. Really just a great resource right here in our community.
Well, 5:37 now, and of course we're asking, where's the money? This time about North Carolina possibly expanding gambling. The North Carolina Senate is getting ready to vote on a sports betting bill that's already passed the House. And the House is about to consider legalizing gambling machines in bars and restaurants. So let's break this down. Gambling machines are already in plenty of establishments. Technically, this is illegal, but the law is hardly enforced, and Supreme Court rulings don't really make it clear on what is and isn't allowed. So some lawmakers think this is the answer. Have the state legalize gambling machines, limit where and how many there are, and then require licensing through the state. Now, here's the most important money aspect, though. The state would take 40% of the profits that these machines generate. That's why this morning we're taking you inside the debate. Check this out.
The real reason that these things flourish is because people play them. If there were no money in it, they would not be in business.
Video gambling is known as the crack cocaine of gambling because it is so addictive. These machines and games are professionally designed to keep people playing as long as possible.
So this morning we're asking, would you be more likely to gamble if it's legal? Text us at 704-329-3600. Sarah?
When I think about the community, I think about the time that I've been here. I've been in this community almost my entire adult life. So you get to know the people. When you know what they care about, then that's what you care about. This community looks at all of us who do weather here at WCNC Charlotte as part of their family. And when you're part of their family, you want to make sure you do it just for them.
Turning now to this well-known Charlotte developer is losing money, but it's for a good reason here. It's taking a unique approach to affordable housing and helping a local charity at the same time.
That's right. And tonight, Seeking Solutions, how Crossland Southeast teamed up with a nonprofit to get more people who live in Charlotte into homes they can afford.
Strictly speaking, affordable housing is not a good business model if you want to make money, but the developer says that's not what this is about. It's about changing lives.
It was a blessing. Just like the street says.
Deborah Simpson has lived in Charlotte all her life, and now she rents an apartment on a road literally called Blessing Street. But she faced an uphill climb before finding the Evoke Living community.
The place that I was living at, they didn't any longer take the vouchers from Section 8, so I had a month to get out.
How tough is it to find affordable housing in Charlotte?
It's like pulling teeth. It's so bad. I was out of the house for 6 months.
Where were you during that time?
Different places, in a hotel, at my mom's, just wherever I could stay, wherever me and my son could lay our heads.
Tim Sidema is the managing partner at Crossland Southeast, the group that built the Evoke Living community after he felt spurred to take action.
There were a couple of business guys and I that were really moved, deeply hurt actually by the Harvard study that listed Charlotte 50th out of 50 in terms of the top cities in the country for upward mobility.
So far, they've built 500 units and handed them over to Freedom Communities, a nonprofit in West Charlotte that believes in tackling housing, education, and other issues all at once to improve entire communities. Freedom Communities then rents the apartments out at an affordable rate.
Oh, it's pretty unheard of. And I think it should really set the precedent of what we can do with our business. I mean, I think Tim is, his heart is in this work, and it's pretty incredible to see him put really his money where his heart is, honestly.
We said we were going to try to at least break even, and it took us 5 years to get to the break even point, I guess, but we wouldn't change a thing. We're committed to the work. It's incredibly difficult, but it's also at the same time incredibly rewarding.
To be able to create this many opportunities for families, 504 units, and we're talking about thousands of people now have access to affordable housing.
We just interviewed a woman who literally pointed to the street sign and said, "This is a blessing for me and for my 16-year-old son. We can't believe that we're able to live here."
Well, that's what it's all about. That's literally what it's all about. That's why we do the work.
There's no words to express. I look out at night and in the morning, I look at God's grace and His glory and just tell Him how thankful I am.
Another 500 units similar to these are already in the works, with construction already underway. Reporting in Charlotte, Michelle Bowden, WCNC Charlotte.
Now, while your outdoor plans might be canceled this weekend because of the weather, there is still an opportunity to get into the water. The YMCA of Greater Charlotte will have some of its indoor pools open, but as WCNC Charlotte's Shamaria Morrison found out, the Y is really emphasizing the need for parents to make sure their kids are prepared to be by the water.
The folks who are coming into the YMCA this weekend are excited about the unofficial start to summer. They're excited to put their feet in the water, even to swim. But the staff here tell me that everyone needs to keep in mind safety during the summer season.
Water's fun, but you have to be safe.
As pools in our area open for the summer,
Nice and slow, so face in, hide your magic button.
there's a heightened watch on kids.
Eyes down, kids.
Amy Guy, the Association Director of Aquatics for the YMCA of Greater Charlotte, says the pandemic set children back years when it comes to swimming lessons.
Everyone thinks of drowning as a red flag or a wave or a call for help. It is silent. It goes undetected and it is quick.
We followed Ella and Finley on their swimming lessons with a YMCA swim instructor.
Okay.
Who also happens to be their grandmother. How can you be safe while swimming?
You can float and swim good.
And let's say maybe you might panic a little bit because you're just learning. What advice what do you do in that type of situation?
Just listen to your swim instructor or whoever is teaching you how to swim.
The YMCA has all its pools staffed with lifeguards ready to step in.
Where do we stop? Right here. Okay,
But if you're somewhere that does not have one,
So if I could give some advice, it would be for our parents to have 100% vigilant eyes on their children.
it could be life or death. And if you're thinking about going to a YMCA pool this weekend, you may want to check in to see if they have opened for the season just yet. Shamaria Morrison, WCNC Charlotte.
Hey YouTube, this is Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here at WCNC Charlotte. We want you to head over to our Weather IQ YouTube page, where we're making you smarter and safer. We have a passion for weather science, and we want you to understand what's happening when the weather changes, because in the end, that's what keeps you safe. It's not about being scared, it's about being informed. Browse our collection of fun and informative clips and look for new segments every week. We're here to raise your weather IQ. Experience the difference on WCNC Charlotte. Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Let's take a look at the weekend forecast. Not great news for Saturday. Looks like a washout, but Sunday does look a little bit better, and Monday looks even better than that. You can see what's going to happen. Saturday washout, light and scattered showers Sunday, then becoming more breaks of sunshine, isolated rain as we go into Monday. What's going on right now? Well, let's look at this system. The leading edge, not making much progress northwest. We kind of expected this. Overnight, don't expect any rain. Probably going to wake up to dry conditions Saturday, but once we get to the middle of the day, this moisture starts moving in from the coast, and that's where this low pressure is developing. At the same time, we've got high pressure to the north, kind of setting up the perfect setup for, or in this case, the bad setup for rain and cold temperatures. Temperatures in the 60s now. Whatever the high is tonight at midnight, that will be the high temperature for Saturday, because the dew points are dry and getting drier. Why is that important? Well, as rain falls into this dry air, it'll evaporate the rain. That will cool the air down, causing chilly conditions. So overnight, expect some sprinkles to develop, but mainly cloudy. Temperatures in the mid-50s, northeast breeze. Here's the setup. Low pressure tracks inland, so rain mid to late morning, probably more like lunchtime. It won't rain the entire time tomorrow, but there'll be waves of it. Sunday, Monday, things get a little bit more interesting, where we might see some breaks in the rainfall. So let me show you the closer in futurecast, because I'm going to put the temperatures on here as well. You see the low 60s tonight. We'll go into tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Here comes that leading edge, likely dry for most of the Piedmont into the mountains. By the middle of the day, rain starts to move into the Piedmont. This is when the temperatures fall because of that evaporative cooling. And you see by the middle of the day, raining pretty steadily. Now, What you got to be careful of in these scenarios is I don't see green here. Is it going to be done raining? Probably not, because what you have to understand is we've got northeast winds at the surface, but warm, humid air coming in from the south. So while there might not be heavy rain like you see in the greens and yellows, there's probably still plenty of mist and drizzle falling where there's not green. The models have a tough time resolving that. So I don't even think it will be completely done raining. It'll just be mist or drizzle. And you can see that persist pretty much all night. Rain develops over us into Sunday morning. Now Sunday, this is where